folks. Renina, etc. Happy quarantine stream here. Usually we do a Friday night's thing for you guys, but we decided to do a special thing tonight on Maybelle Carter of the Carter family, the famous Carter family, and maybe you never heard some of this music before, and hopefully, even if you have heard some of it, maybe this will be some new tunes you never heard before, but definitely some really important, highly influential, amazing songs, and that that last thing we just did, it's called Hello Stranger, and definitely one of my personal favorite Carter family songs. Very kind of bizarre lyrics, and that's kind of the old kind of weird, arcane, like lyrics that we don't really hear very much anymore. But that's how songs were, back then. This is all these tunes were recorded at the birth of recording technology. So you would hear a song and learn how to play it from somebody else. So it's like telephone. Sometimes words get jumbled and mangled, but it makes it more mysterious and interesting as for people like us listening to it now. So sometimes these lyrics don't make much sense, but they're definitely interesting. So I will say it's a good place to start. So we're gonna do that. Like I said, that one was called Hello Stranger. We're gonna do Lonesome Valley. Is that B flat? Let's do that. We're gonna do a spiritual tune. This is a song. This is a song that they did earlier in their career. B flat, and a lot of their music. They recorded topical songs. They recorded, a lot of older spiritual gospel tunes, and they also did a lot of, kind of folk tunes as well. So they had a large pool of things that they drew on, and this is certainly one of them. So this one is called The Lonesome Valley.
By yourself.
So I see a lot of people that we haven't seen in a very long time. Hello to Lily and Alex and Maureen and a lot of people we haven't seen in a long time. Hope you guys are doing good. And Jimmy. So good to see you guys. And we hope you're all staying safe and healthy and all that good stuff. Like I said previously, we are doing a special program tonight. This is something we've done for a while now in libraries. And since March got all messed up, we decided that we'll kind of do an extended Women's History Month. This is what we usually do for our Women's History Month program. And it's about Maybelle Carter, one of my all-time favorite guitar players. And if you don't know her name, basically the easy way to put it is she's Johnny Cash's mother-in-law, but that's only giving her a tenth of the credit that she deserves. She was a superstar back in the 20s. The Carter family was one of the first groups, super groups, and they call them the first family of country music. And they call it the Carter Scratch, named after Maybelle Carter. So guitar became very popular in the 60s and 50s with the birth of rock and roll and, of course, the British invasion. But back in the 20s, guitar was not a popular instrument, and you had mostly fiddle and auto harp and banjo and things like that. So guitar was very much in the background, of course, piano. So a lot of people didn't play guitar. So she certainly raised the profile of the guitar, and also the fact that she's a woman guitar player, playing a completely different, unique style, different than anything that anyone had ever heard before. It's just a totally unique way of playing, and like I said, highly copied now today. But back, if you hear it, in its time period, it's really revolutionary, amazing playing. Basically you're playing the melody and the chord at the same time. So it's like playing two parts at once, kind of like what a piano player would do, but you're doing it on guitar, which is obviously challenging. So we like to do this stuff because we can't always talk about this kind of thing in bars and restaurants when we play. So it's kind of cool to get the backstory when you hear these songs. It gives it a different perspective and life, I feel. So we're gonna do one of their all-time most famous tunes, I would say. This is a song. This is really kind of the quintessential Carter Scratch style of picking. This is a tune. There's like so many people have copied this song and re-recorded it. There's like surf rock versions even of this tune. So just a classic tune. This one also has very bizarre lyrics. That was a parlor tune, and like if you analyze the lyrics, it really doesn't make any sense, but it's okay, it sounds good. So it's called The Wildwood Flower. Life and I'll dance all my sorrows away. The one that is such a classic tune. Even if you don't know the words, that melody is quite famous. As we were saying before, many people have done that. I think I was reading something the other day about Dwayne Allman saying, like, he was trying to teach his kid that. It was one of the things he was trying to teach his kid to play guitar, and that just shows you the divide of different musicians. Bob Dylan, very much influenced by the Carter family. Woody Guthrie, basically, like I said before, they were at the birth of the recording industry. They just literally started, making records, and so the Carter family was kind of the first one of the first groups to record these older traditional tunes that a lot of people had never heard before, so they're kind of like the first guys to really get there and to record these tunes, and of course set the standard for how these tunes sound, and how they're played.
Big Bang.
Yeah, the Big Bang of country music, all done basically in a few days. This recording scout went to what was that town? Can't think of it right now, but he scored big time because he found the Carter family and Jimmy Rogers and a few other very famous musicians that day. So pretty crazy stuff, pretty crazy music. Let's see. All right, so do Rogers too? All right, so since we're just talking about Jimmy Rogers, we'll do a Jimmy Rogers song. And
how about Jones?
Oh yeah, okay. So Jimmy Rogers was the guy that recorded with the Carter family, and he was the only one to surpass them sales wise. He was extremely popular, and again, kind of a sad story. Died very young. He had TB, and really kind of was checked out way too soon, but really had such a beautiful, one of my all-time favorite voices. Just a beautiful voice. He was like the crooner of this time period for this kind of music, and a guy that again was highly copied throughout that time period. Wrote a lot of his own tunes and really kind of made yodeling very popular. So he kind of put like a yodel on everything. He was very creative with that, and what do you call it? Again, a lot of people were copying his yodeling skills. They call him the blue yodeler. He was a brakeman, and then he became a musician. And this is a tune actually on a Brother Rothbell soundtrack, and this is one of his big hits. And a lot of these older country tunes always give you life lessons, and this is certainly one of them. And a tune also that inspired Johnny Cash to record in prisons and do that whole circuit, because Jimmy Rogers and those guys would do those kinds of things. So anyway, fun tune. It's called In the Jailhouse Now. was the Blue Yodeler. He had many yodeling tunes, and I don't think that wasn't really one of them, really, but maybe we'll have to do another one later just to show you that he was the best yodeler ever. Let's do, we have a open set list here, so we're just thinking what we want to do now for you. So, Cannibal? Okay, so this is, there's I neglected to mention, there's a really amazing book that was written a few years ago about the Carter family, and it really is excellent because it gives you all the backstory of the time period and basically why the music is so important, and gives you more of a frame of reference for life in that time, and why things were so challenging, and the great difficulties that they went through just to be able to make this music. Selling records in the Great Depression was no small feat, and they were, they sold, this is before like Billboard and all those measures in which we deal with record sales, but they definitely sold millions and millions of recordings all across the country. And the amazing thing is that they also were in a good spot because they had a regular radio show that they did later in their career, and that signal was so strong. It used to go from Mexico all the way to Canada. It was really an insane signal that they had, and obviously clearly very illegal. That would never happen today, but just the fact that they had that audience on a weekly basis certainly enhanced their reach and notoriety. But this next one we're going to do is about a classic theme in country music, and the train represents a lot. A lot of people have this cliche of that's a train beat, the country thing, and yes, that is true. A lot of that rhythm is in the the name of the book is called Will You Miss Me When I'm Gone? So I've neglected to mention that. But definitely an amazing, amazing book. So well written, and, if you're into, just learning about music history, it's really very cool. It's on Amazon, I'm sure, and it was released a few years ago. But it's all about the Carter family, and like I said, a lot of the people that they influenced. There's a lot of crazy stories about even Hank Williams and Johnny Cash, and the whole. Chet Atkins is in there. Yeah, a lot of those Nashville guys that a lot of people love, and it's very really great read. So. Definitely recommend it. But the train thing is a really a real constant groove in country music, because the train I think represents change and basically outside influence. If you live in a very rural part, back then, you're obviously very spread apart. You don't see a lot of people, and the train brings things from the outside world, like guitars that Maybelle had gotten, a very fancy Gibson guitar that nobody would ever be playing really in those parts. So the train represents a lot of, outside influence. So it has that groove in a lot of these tunes, and certainly serves as topic for tunes. This one is another favorite Carter family tune of mine, and it's called The Cannonball. So we'll do that for right now. Most of these tunes are, like I said, from recorded in the late 20s, but a lot of these tunes predate that because that's only when they recorded them. It's hard to tell exactly when they were first written. A lot of times we don't even know who exactly wrote these tunes. A.P. Carter got credit for them because he was the guy going around the country, knocking on people's doors, asking them if they had any songs, and he would write them down with this blues player, and they would transcribe the music, bring it home, and record it.
Again,
Leslie Riddle is the guy.
Is there a recording? I think there's one.
Yeah, there is a couple of recordings of this guy. Actually, yeah, I neglected to mention it, but there's an association with the blues guy Brownie McGee, and they were, I think, cousins or something like that. I forget, but this guy, only a few recordings exist of him that he did later in life, but he was like his traveling companion. They would go literally around the country in the backwoods and just, like I said, knock on people's doors, hang out in bars, and just try to get songs. And because they were doing it, it was a better way to make a living in the Great Depression than farming or whatever menial jobs they could get. So they were doing pretty okay at that point, but they had to constantly find new material. And a lot of these tunes, like I said, were gospel tunes. They were topical songs about issues of the day, and also a lot of older traditional folk tunes that were that they had it in the mountains and things like that. So this one is a gospel tune, and sometimes it goes by a few different names. Rock of Ages, When the World's on Fire. So we'll do our spin on this one. It's on a slide guitar. World's on Fire. A gospel tune from way back when. Let's do another switcheroo. And you want to grab that? So switch. So I neglected to mention that we have a Venmo and PayPal thing. We're kind of doing this as a public service to keep ourselves sane and hopefully you sane as well. If you want to contribute to that cause, you're more than welcome, and everything that's appreciated. We also just started a Kickstarter page the other day to help fund our next record release, which we're right on the cusp of finishing. We just basically have to get physical product right now and replicate and get some, CDs lined up to give out. But we have some cool rewards set up, and if you want to contribute even a small amount, that will help get us closer to our goal, which is just, like I said, to get physical product out, because it's hard now. We know it's a tough time for everybody, but any support is appreciated, and anytime you want to share the links or share a stream with your friends or whatever, we always encourage you to do so, because music is for sharing. So we're going to do a song that most people would not think has anything to do with this, but it is very much connected. Woody Guthrie considers himself one of the greatest song stealers of all time, and I think he was. And right behind it probably was Dylan, because Woody came first, and the Carter family was a real inspiration for Woody Guthrie. She was kind of bumming around the country, going all over the place, riding the rails and going from town to town looking for work and writing songs as he went. And on the jukebox was God Bless America, and he felt that song was not appropriate representation of his feelings, I guess, on the topic, and he wanted like a tune more from the people's perspective, and so he set forth to write a song like that, and I think he achieved his goal. It's one of the most famous folk tunes ever written, and it's sung in many languages across the world. And the tune he stole from the last song we just did, When the World's on Fire. Literally stole the melody completely. So if you hear the similarity, because it's a dead ringer for that. But a lot of these older tunes serve as springboards for new material. And I think some of the best singers out there, they steal correctly. It's like repurposed material. That's the importance of these older folk tunes. They just really have served, like I said, as a springboard for a lot of newer music that we all, hold dear to us. So in other words, we want to sing along. We're going to do all the verses, even the controversial ones, so let's do it. Here we go.
I
Land Is Your Land, recorded first in 1940, and it's kind of insane. The guy wrote 1,200 songs, and this was kind of like one of his throwaways, and yet it is such an epic, well-known song. So it just goes to show you, he was a very gifted songwriter, and again, huge influence on the folk movement of the 60s. There'd be probably no Bob Dylan had there been no Woody Guthrie. So very important singer, and again, influenced tremendously by the Carter family. So we got a couple more tunes for you tonight. Oh wow, it's already an hour. Jeez, time flies by. Okay, so we might lose you on the Instagram feed in a moment or so, because we're going to want to do a couple more tunes, I'd say. We have the spiel that we have in between songs takes a little while, and if you never heard us at a library, this is what we do. We do this quite often, and we hope after this is all over, if you haven't seen a show in a while, you'll come say hello and maybe come to catch a library show, because library shows are pretty cool. We get to, like I said, talk about the tunes. We don't always have an opportunity to do it at a bar, but we're happy that we have this platform in between that we can still keep playing and, do these amazing songs for you guys. So we're going to do... We'll do a Hank Williams tune. Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna do a Hank Williams song, and the story goes, he was the one. He was the one that started the Mother Maybelle Carter nickname. They would tour with Hank Williams, and if you know anything about Hank Williams, he was definitely a bit of a wild man, wild card, was a notorious drinker, and liked to party a lot. So reeling that guy in was quite challenging, and also being around him was quite dangerous as well. Yeah. He would lose it sometimes. So there's a very crazy story. He was so intoxicated one night that June Carter had to take him home. And him and his wife had a very, so she had to drive him home, and he got into a fight with his wife. They had like I said, a very notorious relationship, and it was the only good thing was that he could use it and put his heartache into song, because that, like, his relationship with her was endless source of material for him. But they got into a fight when she got there, and he took out a gun and went to go shoot her, but aimed and almost hit June, missed her by like that much. And after that, they kind of had severed the ties. But Maybelle was always cooking and helping him out. He was, kind of a bit of a wreck, but that's how she got her nickname. But again, another guy who wrote so many amazing songs and lived too short of a life. Certainly country music poet, Hank Williams, one of the greatest songwriters of all time. It's like a country waltz. And it's called On Some Lonesome I Could Cry. He's a lonesome wind. Lonesome I Could Cry. We have lost our Instagram feed here. And we were just doing a Hank Williams song, and that was called I'm So Lonesome I Could Cry. So that's a real country classic, I would say. And we hope you've enjoyed yourselves thus far. This is a special, as opposed to our normal happy hour thing that we usually do. This is a whole program dedicated to Mother Maybelle Carter. And it's a very special thing that we usually do, mostly at libraries. So we decided to do something a little special tonight to kind of mix it up and do something interesting for you guys. So we're just going to get our Instagram feed back up again and make this happen. What's going on? This thing. Hope you guys are doing well, and hope you have enjoyed thus far the Maybelle Carter program. All right, so let's go live back again on Instagram. Okay, so we're gonna do another song for you guys tonight, and as I mentioned before, Johnny Cash was second generation. A lot of people also were talking about this yesterday. This is bluegrass music, and this is pre bluegrass music. This is really early country music, and Maybelle's picking style obviously really enhanced that genre and led later to bluegrass, that really fast kind of picking, melody kind of picking. But she was before all that. She was at the start of this country music boom. Johnny Cash, as I said, married into that family and married June Carter, her daughter, and who was a great singer in her own right. And she's the one who wrote this last tune that we're going to do for you. It's called "The Ring of Fire," and we were talking about it a few weeks ago. And the story goes that June Carter got a letter from her friend who was getting a divorce, and she said, I'm never going to get married again, going on and on about what had happened. And in the letter, it's in some museum, I forget where, but they still have the letter that she kept. She said, love is like a burning ring of fire. I'm never getting married again. So I think she thought that was quite memorable and interesting way to put it, and decided to write a song around that. And it turns out, I think it was Helen Carter, her sister, who decided to record it first. She recorded the version, her version, which was similar to the original demo that she had. And Johnny Cash wanted to take a crack at it, but he allowed Helen to do it first. He said, if you don't have a hit with the song, I'm going to do it my way. And he went to the studio shortly after and recorded it with the kind of, mariachi style trumpets, and obviously a very crazy choice for a country song back then. Johnny Cash was definitely more of the rebellious kind of, maybe it was Anita, I don't know, we were talking about this the other day, I have to Google that. I think it was Helen though, because Helen had the higher pitched voice, right? Am I wrong here? I don't know. He doesn't remember either. Little factoids. But anyway, the sisters recorded it first, then Johnny Cash did it. And if you hear the original, it might be Anita. Now I'm thinking it was Anita Carter. But she had a really excellent, really great voice, had a really great range. And her version is very, very different from the Johnny Cash versions. And even June Carter did a version later with just the auto harp and some backing with her sisters. But if you want to hear all those versions, it's kind of cool. If you really like a song, you can hear all the different crazy ways to play it. And if you're a musician, this is the kind of stuff we nerd out on and love to hear. Because there's always a million ways to play something, not just the way you have always known it. So anyway, this is called "The Ring of Fire." Here we go. That Fire. And we thank you so much for tuning into this very special program dedicated to Mother Maybelle Carter of the Carter family. We hope you heard some old tunes that you enjoy, that you know, and also hopefully some new favorites that you have not seen.